I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think we're Hacker Summer Camp.
Hacker Summer Camp, 25,000 of our best friends
That's right.
together, in the AC.
Having some fun, slinging some wares.
Absolutely.
Hopefully helping some customers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Understand the threat landscape and respond to the threats and the attacks that they face every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not an easy challenge.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I think this is always an interesting week in time where everybody sort of collectively gets together and they determine the next 6 to 8 months, and that window's going to collapse even more, right? Because of all the automation and the just sort of general hype around AI and how it's driving all this new innovation. So
you sit in the CISO seat at Sumo Logic.
I do.
So you're one of the peers here, also in a position to help your peers,
Yep.
which is a cool spot. And so tell me a little bit about your role at Sumo Logic, some of the things you look over, and maybe some ideas of how your peers can benefit from what you experience every day.
Absolutely. So, been in the role for a little while now at Sumo Logic, been around Sumo Logic for over a decade, either as a partner or a consumer of the services, so understand it from a technical perspective quite well. I think one of my initiatives this year is just around being able to run our own product at scale. I think that there's no better way to prove to a customer or prospective customer, how we do what we do using our own tooling is literally the best way to prove that out, right? Are we effective? Can we scale? And the answer to that is absolutely yes, from a legendary perspective.
Yeah. They call that eat your own dog food, right?
They do. They do indeed.
So we were talking before we started recording, just that it's very difficult to get some of the tooling in place in an organization and set up and configured to actually do what it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're successful at that, configuring it to actually succeed in line with business risk and business objectives, super hard, right? So there's the technical part, and then there's the config leading to the business part of it. What are you seeing in your own environment, looking at the tooling that you have? How do you kind of look at that big picture as you build tools internally and use them yourself?
So I think it's a good question, and Sumo is recognizing something that I think a lot of peers in the industry are recognizing, that security tooling is notoriously difficult to use, especially in the enterprise. And I think that the way that we're approaching this is that we've made that realization, and then there is a concerted driving effort internally in engineering and product to make our product much easier to use.
Right.
That's going to cast a wider net for potential customers. It's going to make our existing customers' lives easier. One of the releases that we had this week at Black Hat is our evolved version of Mobot.
Okay.
Sumo Mobot internally. It's our conversational interface inside the product. And I think that this is definitely where a lot of interfaces are going, just from a general statement, but definitely from a security perspective, is can you interact with the product in a natural language way and in a very casual way, but still glean interesting insights out of all that data intelligence that we have, right? And so now you can prompt your way into investigations inside of the product. You can see audit trails around that. You can get interesting insights. The agent itself inside of the product is able to put together different pieces of information to give you different outcomes, rather than just a very deterministic ask a question, get an answer, right? We use this internally. We have an internal Mobot instance that our organization uses that's connected to multiple systems inside, whether that's, are we having a client challenge from a technical or security perspective that we can help guide them through from either a professional services or support perspective, or also just even from an administrative perspective. Hey, how is this customer doing from the account standpoint? We do that internally in Mobot, but we bring that conversational ability to our customers so that they can go and say, hey, I would love to understand what's going on here. How close am I to PCI compliance inside of my platform? So we've turned that into a very easy, low barrier to entry to be able to get results in a fast way.
So you gave one example of getting into threat hunting. To am I PCI compliant?
Right.
Very different conversations, different people, different objectives. So who is the user base of what you're delivering changing? Has it changed over time?
I think it is. I think it's changing consistently because we have users of Sumo logic that do not have a security role at all in our customer base, but our intelligence in the data layer, where we sit inside that data layer is so pivotal to their organization, and it's just making it easier for them to get insights faster, right? I think one of the things that again, you're gonna see a theme here this week is that how do we get to value fast?
Right.
You know, especially in the age of AI when spend is off the charts all over the place and we're not doing control and governance around that in a way. I mean, you go down to the show floor, you're gonna see lots of vendors around AI governance, right?
Yeah.
So I think it starts in a fundamental way. We have a casual saying internally, it's like, let's use AI, but let's all be responsible adults about it.
Yeah.
But I think there also needs to be a governance layer in that, and we think about that and how we've implemented these types of things. So the user is changing. Sorry, I deviated from the question a little bit,
right.
but the user is changing. But also, I think as we focus and really hone in on the security capabilities of the product. To me, as a CISO, I'll make this statement, and I always say this: is that all data security data.
Right.
Doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you just make the product easier to use, then I think you're going to win all over the place.
So, one of the things that I think as companies start to deploy, I don't know, broad scale, but certainly when you get into the security teams, looking at tooling and leveraging AI and LLMs and different models, the consistency, the accuracy, and repeatability. Do you get the same, if that's the response, you get the same thing every time,
right
or wrong?
Right.
And then transparency into that. So how do you respond to customers that say, really cool, but these are life or critical decisions we're making. We need to know that it is accurate and it's going to produce the same result every time.
So we prove that. You can see an audit trail and a log trail in every decision that our SOC Analyst Agent makes. I have an example of this at a scale that I think most organizations can't touch. We, as a SecOps team, are ingesting 7 exabytes a day globally. We are using our own tooling to get 100% first level triage with an automation, and then be able to repeat that. So all of that, what you're asking is that how do I trust the decision that the agent has made? Well, one, you become sort of an agile QA organization as a SOC team now, and I think that that's going to be industry-wide. Okay, we've done it. We've seen a lot of our customers who are really bleeding edge. Like, we have a financial institution that's in a just absolute wonderful customer. They operate, I think, like $45 billion assets under management. They have a long tenure, super mature from a cyber perspective, and they are using our exact tooling. They were part of the preview program, and what we're seeing is the same thing being played out at those types of organizations. It's how do you see the fidelity of what the agent is doing? If you have questions about it, you're able to trace it back all the way to every conceivable log down to the root decision that it made. All that is again done with a QA process, and you put the decisions in the hands of the human. We call it human on the loop, not in the loop, because we want to sit there and make those decisions, but the execution and the delivery of that is now automated.
Yeah. So how does, well, we'll get to some of the outcomes for your own eating your own dog food.
Yeah, sure.
But we talk about the tooling being easy to use. We talked a little bit about different users now using it, but how does this new world change the way that you approach staffing and training your team?
That's a wonderful question, because inevitably you get the tension. I have the saying that I stole from somebody who's a lot smarter than me called "pay attention to the tension." Okay, and you're seeing perceived or tension that's created around, is this automation going to make me lose my job?
Right.
You know, which hey, is a valid question, right? But here's the way that we're approaching it, and this is exactly what we are seeing from our customer base, partner base, and internally. We're making the work better and more interesting with this tooling. We're making our analysts more capable with this tooling. And our customers are seeing the same thing. It's not about reducing headcount and replacing somebody with a tool. It's about enabling that headcount with something that can automate the execution and delivery. I've had some interesting conversation with the frontier model people of various companies for the last few months, and they're essentially saying the same thing. It's delivery and execution is not the issue. It's about decision making, and so our tooling enables those resources to make better decisions and make the work more interesting.
It ultimately does come down to the decision, right? Even just building products.
It does.
If you have an indecision, you could miss something. If you make a bad decision, it could be detrimental. If you make a decision you have to remake, it could be an issue. So what are some of the outcomes for your team where they make a decision, they know they don't have to revisit it, right? Even like in the healthcare, you don't want a readmission.
Right.
So what are some of the outcomes let's start with the analysts in your team.
Yeah, sure. So we're saving generally per analyst about 25 hours a week. Straight up. That's a great metric, right?
Yeah.
So doing a lot more with the same amount of people, more intelligence, better automation, okay? We are seeing 100% first line triage with the automation.
Wow.
And again, we've been in production with our own tooling for about 10, 11 months now. Okay, so customer zero, and everything that we're doing is being fed back into the product organization in real time. We have an exceptionally agile engineering and product organization, and so we feed that back on a regular basis as business partners. And to me, we can talk about cyber all you want. We can talk about the cool tech and all that stuff, but listen, we're business people, and we're here to enable the business to achieve its outcomes. Because nobody in security is going to have a job, if the business is not running. And so we're just a plank for those outcomes to be enabled for our customers and then us as well. But some other metrics around that. I mean, I think I mentioned this, but we're at 7 exabytes of ingest a day. Now, just wrap your head around how big that number is. That's 500 million 8K movies. Okay, and that's our ingest globally. Our own tooling, 100% first level triage. And we've seen that again at scales that are far smaller, and that's what I love about talking to a customer or prospective customer, or just the industry in general. I'm like, guys, we're operating at what I would term a galactic scale, and we are proving beyond the shadow of a doubt that the tech does what it's supposed to do. And we are showing how a security operations center is now becoming essentially an agile QA organization, make good decisions based upon the very, very good telemetry that the tooling is handing you.
So I'm going to switch because we only have a minute left, I think. The other end of the spectrum, you're in your seat, in front of your ELT, maybe even the board.
Yeah.
What are some of the outcomes in those engagements and conversations at that level? Say, all this tech and investment we made our teams better, and
so I think that this is one of the most important questions that CISOs have a hard time answering.
Right.
And the reason that I say this is that your job as a security practitioner at an executive level is to very transparently and accurately measure risk and report on it. Boards are very interested in risk at this point. They're very interested in cyber. And boards are generally, they're pretty smart people, right? You give them 3 data points, they're going to come up with a trend line.
Yep.
And so when we say that as practitioners, we say, listen, I have to be able to very accurately communicate risk to you and what we're going to do. If we make a decision not to do something, what does it cost? If we make a decision to do something, what does it cost in reputation, dollars, all those great things, right? Okay, so what our tooling does is drive that outcome for a CISO. Now, am I as a CISO going to be sitting in the SIM? Probably not. You don't want me doing that, right? But what I can do is I can use the telemetry coming out of that to make very, very informed risk decisions. Very informed. And we can communicate that using the tooling, the visualizations, or any of those types of things that are going on within the platform. And we can communicate that in a very executive-friendly way. Like right out of the tool today. Again, conversational, let's bring it out. Let's lower the bar of being able to drive an outcome for the business. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the tooling enables all of that. And oh, by the way, if you're really interested in it at the board level, which they're probably not, but we can actually show you exactly how we got to that decision. There's data to back
the auditor cares.
The auditor cares, right?
And then the board would care if you don't pass the audit.
Absolutely.
Sure. Jeremy.
Pleasure.
Cool stuff, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the chat. Hopefully we'll have many more. I want to dig into all kinds of things. In the meantime, connect with Jeremy Powell, Sumo Logic, and I'm sure you're in a lot of the CISO forums and communities, so connect with them there as well. And stay tuned for more here on ITSP Magazine.